Hi, everyone. Thanks for jumping on. We're just giving it a few seconds until everyone is able to get on, and then we'll get started. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining today. So excited. We've got a series on what it's gonna take to launch the next viral product on Amazon. So we have a couple of experts in the space with us today. We have Brian with Mayan, Andrew with Mayan, a senior account manager, Mayan founder of Lasso Technologies. So we also have Stephen Blustein, co-founder and head of sales and partnerships at Gemba. So we're going to walk through a couple of different things today. We'll deep dive into what's going on in 2021, how that's impacting what we're doing in 2022, a little bit on Amazon itself and how to tell if products are successful, and then walk into how you can potentially create and launch a successful product and figure out what are the mechanisms that you need to launch and be successful. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Andrew.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you, Gemba, for hosting this as well. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the company I work for, Mayan. So as you mentioned, I am the senior account manager at Mayan. I am also the founder and owner of Lasso Technologies, which sells two different brands, both on and off Amazon. The first brand is ProShot Case, which is a underwater iPhone housing designed for snorkelers and scuba divers to take their iPhones underwater so that they can film, some of their exciting adventures under the sea. And the other is Tidal Sports, which is again, it's sort of in the snorkeling, scuba diving space. We sell masks, snorkels, fins, and accessories along those lines. But otherwise, I am the, like I said, senior account manager at Mayan. Mayan, we call ourselves a growth automation platform. That means is we specialize and have built software specifically to integrate with Amazon's PPC capabilities. So we were, a company out of Y Combinator. Our four founders are all from MIT. So we have a very strong data science, AI, machine learning sort of background. And they're the ones that are, shaping the software, building the software that our account managers use to effectively help scale our Amazon clients. Our CEO was also one of the first employees at Thrasio. And for those of you that don't know, Thrasio is the largest Amazon aggregator. They're actually the fastest company to ever become a unicorn as well, to reach $1 billion valuation. So he gained a lot of experience there before launching Mayan. And I'll turn it over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, Thrasio, small American company in our space, of course. Yeah, it's a great group and grown really fast. Really cool to watch them. Appreciate it, Andrew. Great to be here with you today. My name is Stephen Blustein, as Caroline said. I'm one of the co-founders here at Gemba. And what is Gemba? We're the first ever product development marketplace, really taking someone from back of the napkin all the way to the shelf. So touching topics such as research, design, sourcing, and manufacturing. We have over 500 experts within our network. These are industrial designers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, really all people that touch the creation journey of your product. And then over 2,200 factories that span about 7 different regions. We're focused in on China, India, Vietnam, Mexico, South America, now Eastern Europe as well. We finished our funding round last year, raised about 11 million in our Series A, and have been poised in growth to really get ahead and help companies not only with product development, but also with any of their relocation needs, as they're really addressing a lot of these market conditions lately, and the different ups and downs of the economy.
Great. Yeah. Well, first of all, congrats on the Series A. We're actually hoping to close our Series A within the next week or two. We're in the final leg of it. So I know that's a really exciting time for any business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back on it, I probably could have used a service like Gemba, during my initial product development days when I was completely new, had no idea what I was doing, and made a fair amount of costly mistakes. But, it takes time and experience to really understand how to bring a product to market. So anyways, first, I want to talk a little bit about just some tools and what we look at on Amazon to sort of see where the trends are moving. This is a report from Brand Analytics on Amazon, and we're essentially just pulling the top. You're able to pull up to the top 1 million keywords by search volume on Amazon. So it's pretty interesting to see. But sort of the point is here that just because there's a keyword that's in the top 10 or top 20 does not mean that that's the product you should jump into. There's a lot of other factors that go into thinking about a product, creating a product. And I know you're going to talk a little bit more later about sort of that, product life cycle and doing some of the keyword analysis. But it's just, sometimes interesting to see, some of the trends. So I want to start off first by going just through a couple products that sort of dominate the, some of the top categories that we've seen over the past year. And we'll treat them like case studies before we jump into your product lifecycle section. So first of all, this is, a pretty simple product. This was the #1 selling product for the keyword Valentine's Day gift. So we did a lot of sales over a very short period of time. So just looking at this, it's relatively simple. You can imagine that it's relatively inexpensive. I'd say this product would cost less than $2 or $3 to manufacture, depending on where and who you're using. But it's unique, it's creative. These are little capsules that have a piece of paper in them where you just open it up and you write a message on a piece of paper and put it back. Super simple idea. But these guys made, we're selling thousands of units over Valentine's Day. So there are always pros and cons to when you're looking at any product or product category. And the point here that I want to bring up is that while this is, doing well in its category, it's clearly very, seasonal. This is a gift item that's just focused around maybe a few holidays. Maybe you could do this for Mother's Day or something like that. But it's just something to really think about when you're, thinking about your product, thinking about what you want to launch. Seasonality is incredibly important. And I'll give you an example because one of our customers that I work with personally sells flour containers that have a fortune cookie. Write your, as you're placing the order, you write your message on the fortune cookie, they print it out, put it in the cookie and put it in this flower display for you. So you can imagine that certain times of the year, they see huge spikes in sales. And we just went through this over Mother's Day a few weeks ago. Or I guess over a month ago now. But anyways, this customer did the volume in one day. It was the Monday before Mother's Day. They did the same volume in that one day that they did all of December. So that's just, kind of the crazy peaks and troughs we can see in certain products, depending on the seasonality, just depending on what type of gift category they're in. And it's very important to understand that as you're, thinking about your product launch.
Andrew, my first business was a pet product company called Pride Bites, and we had a ton of seasonality. And I think, in the beginning, when you're planning to launch your products and you're not thinking about it, it really catches you off guard, and you almost get that bullwhip effect with inventory. So I think it's really keen to kind of hone in exactly what you're saying is really understand the life cycle and when that customer hits in terms of the life cycle.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate. So this was the flower seller I was talking about. This was their first full year on Amazon. So they had no data from last year on what Mother's Day would be like, at least on Amazon. So they actually had so much demand on that Monday, they had to turn their listings off for the next 2 days. Wow. Just to catch up with the orders. And, if you're able to understand, demand at times, you can better plan to avoid scenarios like that, because turning off a product is the last thing you want to do when you're here in e-commerce sales, obviously.
Right.
So next, we found that very consistently, and this is true for last spring and this spring, but dresses, women's dresses, summer dresses, casual summer dresses, I see these keywords in the top 20 all of the time, especially during spring and early summer. And what's really sort of interesting about this is, like I said, there are always pros and cons. I'm sure you have some experience with, manufacturing clothing. And what's nice is there's no, large tooling expenses. It's not like plastic injection molding, which can have really big upfront costs. Paying for the fabric, and you have a lot of sort of creative autonomy over what the design is going to look like as well. And that's what makes it relatively easy to get into the clothing business. There's not a lot of barriers to entry. There's also, you're able to create, once you have your design, you're able to create almost unlimited patterns and styles and different options within that specific listing. So here's an example. There are 45 different types of styles for this dress. So, on the flip side, when you think about it, because there's low barriers to entry, there's generally going to be a little bit more competition. And just because dresses is in, like I was saying before, just because dresses is in the top 20 keywords pretty consistently, it doesn't necessarily mean that's a product you should go after right away. There's a lot more to consider. Specifically in the apparel industry, we see a lot of headaches around managing inventory. That's one of the biggest headaches you can find, because just this one listing has 45 different options in probably 10 different sizes. That's 450 SKUs that you have to manage all of the inventory for, on a pretty seasonal basis too, which makes it even harder to forecast. So if you're good with numbers and good at managing inventory, then yes, maybe this is a product where you could do well and compete, because that's a lot of the equation right there is how well can you manage your inventory. That's a huge piece of it. But another thing we found—
I ran in that battle for sure. In my days, my first company, we developed one product, was a first dog toy that actually won best product of the year in the pet space. Where we, I think, failed is we came out with 30 variations on our first product out of the gate. So we thought the variations would create options and that thus would create closes. But I think options created parallelization, which ultimately led to no closes. So it's interesting that you're saying that, because I've been directly in this problem before.
Sure, I've seen it too. Even if it's just a simple variation with color, you'll find that Amazon customers have a preference for this color. I've seen differences where people will buy 90% of one color compared to the other. And that's really hard to forecast with your first order right off the bat. You don't really know until you get some data under your belt. But I think one of the biggest sort of challenges in the apparel industry, and this is specific to Amazon, but also I'm sure we see it in other places, but it's just the quantity of returns. Returns are a big problem in Amazon in general, but in the apparel industry, that's generally where we see it to be the highest. I manage a couple of apparel companies and a couple costume companies as well for Halloween, which is like sort of the combination of the craziest seasonality with hundreds, if not thousands, of variations. Think about all the costumes that they have to offer. But anyways, returns, we see sometimes 15 to 20% of all products ordered get returned in the apparel industry. And it makes sense. A lot of people, they buy multiple options, they buy multiple sizes, and they keep the one that fits and return everything else. But think of how that can create headaches for you and additional costs down the road, because a lot of times the tag is torn off, the packaging is ripped open, and you can't resell it right away without some additional processing. So that's always a struggle. And lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about iPhone cases, just because I have some experience in the space. I don't sell, day-to-day iPhone cases. I would never touch that category. My products are extremely waterproof, specifically designed for a niche, which is, scuba diving, which is, what I think is important when you're thinking about products is like, what's your niche? What customers are you going to go after? But we see iPhone cases in the top 20 search terms all the time too. It's very consistent. I really don't have any pros for iPhone cases. They are.
I actually bought that one directly. Yeah, I was looking at it like, wow, I got lured into that listing.
So funny. But if you think about it, if you're making a custom design, it's expensive to tool up for plastic injection molding or any type of plastic. There's lots of different types of plastic. They usually all require an extensive or expensive steel mold in order to create, the thousands or hundreds of thousands of units that you would want to sell. There's tons of competition in this space. There are a lot of established players, and usually they're selling, a lot of these are Chinese companies that are selling directly from their factory. It's really hard to compete with that, especially when they're established, they have more resources, and they're going to have a lower cost than you, sort of no matter what. And the biggest problem is that iPhones change every year. This is not a long-term product strategy. And I learned that the hard way. I think I launched my first product for the iPhone 7, which is for the scuba diving product. And within 2 years, we had to completely retool and redesign everything because the phone, changed by like 3 or 4 millimeters. And that was enough to completely have to trash all of our tools. And it's, we probably had about 7 different moving parts. So it was very expensive tooling. It was about $50,000. And having to reinvest in tooling every couple of years because of changes that are totally out of your control is very frustrating. Our more recent designs have universal capabilities. And we've designed a technique where there's a spring-loaded clamp that allows any size iPhone to clip into the same, sort of outer shell. So we were able to learn from our mistakes, or address those problems, and figure out how we could have a tool that would last, we're hoping 5 years, maybe 10 years, so that we can really recoup that investment. Because like I was saying, it is a very intensely high upfront investment sometimes. So I'll turn it over to you, Stephen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, going along the lines of, how you're saying things, Andrew, and just think through like, how you plan for your product, how you plan about the cycle and the journey and the inventory. I think it starts really, taking a step back and the planning sessions as you're going through. And the way that we think about it here at Gemba is we're product obsessed, right? So we've really locked in on these phases and these stages of your product journey, right? From research and concept design, sourcing, production, and logistics. And here at Gemba, you can really start at any phase that you want. We don't mind that if you've already done the research, or maybe that you're already in production and you need help with relocation or scaling those efforts. And in today's world, everyone is trying to find cost-cutting measures as we continue to find pressures from the economy and the world economy come down on us. We're trying to find different opportunities and hidden places and low-cost initiatives to get things launched. You can go to the next slide. Part of what we constantly think about here is grouping your product journey and the type of journey that you want to go on. So we kind of classify it into 3 different product types here at Gemba. The first being branded. Then this is like an OEM-like product. You have an iPhone case, you want to make it your own. You just go ahead, you find a supplier, you find the product that you like at the supplier, the iPhone case, and maybe you just slap your logo at the bottom left corner of it. You already think the product is nice. You've already gone that way. And then you can launch it in the market. When Amazon first came out, there was a lot of arbitrage happening. There was a lot of things that were happening where people were the first to the space. And so the branded strategy was actually fantastic because you were the first to market, and you were gaining that insight and that control of that listing through merely a branded product that was OEM. Today, people are getting more crafty, right? They're finding new nuances. They're able to review all the different reviews that are out there and find what's good, what's bad, and classify them. And from there, what we've really seen is this next type of product type emerge as really the most ideal product type for the value that you have or the value that you're creating in your product, which is a customized journey. The way we break that down is from no moving parts, has moving parts, and has electronics. And so what a customized journey is merely adjusting 10% of that feature set of the product that you would have branded, right? So I take a Yeti cup, I read the reviews. Oh man, it really is burning my hand in the middle. And I want to just add a handle to that Yeti cup so I don't get burned anymore. So that would be something that I dug into the reviews, I dug into the product, and then literally found something that was an opening in the market, maybe a blue ocean in that review category. And then we filled the need with a customized solution that makes it more uniquely your own, but not necessarily just something that's off the shelf they can get anywhere. Finally, the route that I took, I'm not sure this is the best route at the very start, but the route that I took in my first company was, hey, we're going to make everything unique. And Andrew, as you said, this is very costly, right? Yeah. When you don't know enough, you don't know, you're very naive, you jump into these things. And I think part of that makes you an entrepreneur, right? That you can kind of handle the ebbs and flows of that flexibility. But initially, I think what it allows you to do is when you get through the journey and you're on the other side, you know what not to do in that journey. And I don't say that don't start a unique journey, because many folks, this is something that an area that provides a ton of success to. And now today we have a nice moat around our product. Usually unique creates a larger moat than something that's customized. And so unique, again, has the same complexity levels as we talked about, which is no moving parts, has moving parts, and has electronics. And probably those that are on this webinar today probably know that about us, and in terms of the complexity level that we classify things with. But in this category, really, it's you're creating your own molds. Nothing's on the shelf. Everything's made to order. And in this stage, we take you through the full product journey, all steps included. Make sure that we're really covering our basis in that approach. You can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I just quickly argue that, in light of the sort of topic of this webinar, if you were trying to launch a viral product, branded is not the way to go anymore. Like you said,
Correct.
Maybe you could get away with that 5 years ago, but you are, you can still find success that way. You're just, you're going to be competing with lots of other similar products in the same space, all competing for the same keywords. It's very challenging to find a product that can break out. So customized and unique are really the way to sort of make your stamp on a specific product that will have the potential to really do well on Amazon and off Amazon.
Absolutely. And from our case, in terms of like your timeline, we'll just take, kind of a unique timeline overall. A lot of things that we're doing today are much faster than this, but I'm kind of wanted to give you an all-encompassing, hey, if I want to create a product from scratch, what does that look like? Well, we do a lot of due diligence. I think that's really important, is that no matter what I learned through my companies that I've created, is that the preparation is really what made me survive, right? And really in the early phases when I didn't have a lot going on, is to really prepare and research and continue to research. And I think Andrew, that's where Mayan actually is bringing a lot of benefit to consumers today as well. In the sense that you really get a lot more knowledge, right, of their listing, of what you're doing and where the opportunities lie. And in our case, what we want to focus on today is research. That's the beginning of our journey. It's the part I think that if you really don't put a lot of time into, it can catch you off guard. So I'll spend a little bit more time today digging into our research phase here at Gemba and what that means in terms of your outcomes. So really, the basis, what does research do? It solves problems that others ignore. It finds things, finds opportunities and openings that we can explore together. So classic, I'm going to start with dog toys. This is something that I know very, very well. In my space specifically, it's funny that everyone always asks me, do I have dogs? Yes, of course I have dogs. And we had a couple at one point, but a lot of testers in my household. But when looking over the industry, in the searches in the category, we find some opportunities here. Something you said, Andrew, is people tend to move away now from branded products, which is absolutely correct. There's more blue ocean in these other opportunities, and the best way to see it is to review the economics of the industry overall, right? What's moving? What works? The dog ball launcher, that was something in the pet space that blew up like almost overnight, right? You saw everybody with these little sticks that help people throw the ball in the park now, as opposed to before they were throwing it with their hand. Of course, no one wants to do that, right? And then other categories emerging, I think, which is very interesting here, things to note with our kind of cross industries, which is dog beer, right? Beer dog toys. This is something that's in my category that I focused on for a long time. Aggressive chewers is something else. And then I think coming, maybe into your world, as you said, Andrew, before, is like, you're not just focusing on iPhone cases. There's tons of people that are in that space. Like you're focusing on iPhone cases for scuba diving, right? A very niche market to carve out, because there you can really unleash a lot of value for those customers. And I think in this case is, focusing on things like the pull for dogs, flirt pro for dogs, and the dog water toys, and these types of things are openings maybe that are small market share right now, but could be growing into a larger market share in the future. So the next phase of this, yeah, you can go back there. Sorry, I know it's clickable, yeah. But the next phase, if you want to go to the next slide.
I think I clicked the link, maybe. There we go.
Perfect. Yeah, is we'll drill into sort of the specifics in the category itself. So, we take those, and the reason why I said that is like, you look for things that may be an emerging opportunity. So starting to bite off a larger piece of the pie within a category. And specifically, water toys really grew almost overnight when I came into the industry. Specifically because I know that we created one of the first floating dog toys on the market called the Pride Bite. And a lot of these guys were guys that we went up against in terms of competition within the market. So the things that we're thinking about is really, how can we dissect to where water dog toys fall within this space? There's durable, what's the price point, overall quantities, monthly sales, et cetera, to really hone in to see, what segment of water dog toys do I want to focus on, or what segment do I want to steer away from? It could be, blue oceans or red oceans, either or. And those opportunities really can help establish what direction you want to go within the category. Again, an emerging market, something that was really, really popular in the cat world that came into the dog world, right? Were these flirt poles. And typically dog owners and cat owners are pretty segmented. I think obviously a large share of people do have dogs and cats together in a household, but typically the toys and the focus of the consumer is pretty segmented in terms of desires and needs. This is one that came over. Typically you see dog toys that then flow into the cat market, but not necessarily cat products that flow into the dog market. This is one that started to see some emergence. So you'd be looking at that market research, identifying opportunities within new products that maybe have success within other animal categories that, hey, that could be mirrored and have success in terms of launching within the pet market. So another opportunity that's developed through research. Finally, the last example in terms of the physical product is crate toys. This is beginning dogs too. Initially, you get a puppy, and they're spending about 50 to 60% of their life in a crate, right? So how do we address that? We're spending so much time there. You don't want to necessarily give a dog that sits in a crate something that they can easily tear up, right? Because it becomes a hazard for them. So in this case, the rubber products are a fantastic way to leave something behind, add something, a treat for your dog in the crate. So really, again, market research, seeing what the data provides you, kind of lifting up that layer of data, looking that much farther into it and saying, hey, where are my opportunities here? And maybe it's really addressing the activities of the market, right? In this case, the dog activities, right? Where do they spend most of their time at specific ages? And then ultimately seeing a product that is comparative, that has a lot of success in the market, and seeing where you can fill the gaps in that.
Yeah, very interesting. And what type of data platform do you use to do most of your research, or do you have a combination or a favorite?
Yeah, we definitely have a combination. I think on here, as you see, one of our top partners is Guru. Really love what they do and the platforms they provide. I think they definitely have a really great analytics platform that's very intuitive and has been a great partner to us. We also have a partner in Helium 10, which obviously is a kind of the big gorilla in the room that a lot of people use. And I think what's nice now is really you have a lot of folks in the space that are emerging, such as y'all, right, that are coming through with a different take on how we think about product and analytics. I think PickFu is another great example of a different spin on a type of research platform. But for us, I think it's important as a product company that we really understand a variety of platforms to make sure that we cover our basis in our approach to product creation. Okay. Finally, the last one, something that I worked on for quite a bit in my first life, a dog ball launcher. I worked with the team at iFetch for a long time to help them create a number of products. But this is a space that really was a very, very growing space. A lot of opportunity here. As you can see, a lot of variation between mechanisms here, unique products and customized products. So when thinking through the space of how much you want to invest in your product and what you're thinking about the long term and the budget of your product, it's also something that's going to be really important that comes through from the research is your ROI and everything that you're going to be investing in, and when that return will come back to you in the future. So another big opportunity within the pet market and the dog toy market, in different ways people addressed it based on the data. So when we have all these things, how do we continue to dissect about what's good or what's bad with an item? Well, obviously we think the reviews are a fantastic place to do that, right? And in y'all's case, being able to highlight really different opportunities within those reviews that people can say, hey, this is something that I want to go to. But a simple dichotomy of kind of word choice really, I think, provides for you to say, hey, where can I go with those products? After seeing all those different reviews and classifying them, this is just a good way to kind of break it out to say like, hey, what am I going to focus on when going into product development? My dad always said, hit them where they ain't, right? So again, more blue ocean discussion. I'm trying to avoid competition by seeing where the openings within a product are in the marketplace. And finally, how do we continue to address that? As we create that dichotomy to understand really where the volume is in those products, by looking through the keyword search after you've really seen what's working or not working within a product category. And then from here, where you're going to drill in is to really kind of the ROI that I was just speaking to in the previous slide on product, is really understanding what search terms you need to cater around in order to be successful, or in order to get more eyeballs on those items to increase your sales.
Yeah, and this keyword research, it's really important when you're thinking about a product, but I'll get into it soon. It's very important when you're thinking about your launch advertising strategy, because Amazon is a keyword machine. It is so important to know what keywords are most relevant to your products and really hammer on those on your advertising or product launch, so that you can start getting organic ranking. You can see the effects pretty immediately if you have the right keyword strategy in place. So now I'm going to, first of all, thank you for that part. That was really informative. Yeah, great to hear. I learned a lot. I think what I want to talk about is, this is really specific to Amazon, but any launch strategy should not only focus on Amazon, especially when you're creating a unique product. But today we're going to focus mostly on Amazon. So anyways, why should you advertise launch on Amazon? Obviously, everybody knows you need to advertise, but I just want to provide a little bit of more color about why today it has become so important to really focus on your launch strategy and advertise right off the bat on Amazon. So first of all, the ad placement on Amazon, I'm sure we've all noticed this, but over the past 3 years, the amount of ads you've seen on Amazon has gone up over 100%. So the platform is flooded with ads. We have top of search, we have video ads in the middle of the page, there's sponsored display on the side and the bottom. There's more than 25 ads per product page on Amazon. So the platform's been flooded, and in my opinion, this creates a little bit of opportunity, because companies that have tons of reviews, what we call the review moat, have a little less power, because especially those top 4 top of search ads that show up, you can buy that placement. And if you're a new company with no reviews, trying to make a name for yourself, that's the best way to really compete with some of these other players that have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of reviews sometimes. So otherwise, 40% of all sales on Amazon are preceded by an ad click. So think about that. That is a pretty crazy statistic, but it's part of what we've seen because Amazon has increased so much ad placement over the last couple of years. It just makes sense that more and more sales are coming directly from ad clicks. So that's why, again, today it is so important. If you don't advertise, really nobody's going to find your product, especially if you don't have any sort of organic ranking or a review moat to work with. We've also found that in the first month to 2 months of launching your product, about 70 to 90% of your sales are going to most likely come from advertising efforts. So the vast majority of your sales when you're launching a product will come from ads. I have seen some cases with more established brands, when they launch a new product, they can sometimes get that number down a little bit, but generally it's pretty consistent where you're going to find that you need to advertise in order to get sales right off the bat, to get some product momentum. Because Amazon, especially after sitting there for a month with no sales, Amazon is not going to give your product a second chance at that point. And finally, Amazon is almost 50% of all e-commerce now. So, I had went through this thought process with my brands. when I was initially starting out off, like, do I want to sell on Amazon? Should I keep it, off Amazon? And at this stage, I think there's an argument that if you're not on Amazon, you are missing a significant share of the market. And it's much harder to convince people to come to your website to spend than to go to Amazon and spend money. So next, I want to talk about the honeymoon period. So this has been documented by a lot of people. So I'll cover it relatively quickly, but the key takeaway here is that when you are launching your product on Amazon, Amazon gives, we don't know exactly how it works because their algorithm is a bit of a black box, but we know that Amazon gives new products special treatment for about the first couple of weeks to a month. And that's what we call the honeymoon period, where they are giving your brand new product the chance to show up and compete with some products that have been on Amazon for a lot longer and have a lot more sales. So it's important to take advantage of this honeymoon period. First of all, you should have your product listings sort of like deactivated, not live, until you actually have inventory available in Prime ready to ship. That way you can better take advantage of the entire sort of honeymoon phase and turn your listings on only when you see that your inventory is actually available to ship, because people can buy your product before it's available for Prime. You might notice this sometimes if you're trying to check out and it says your product has a 1 to 2 week delivery window. That's generally because the products are getting shipped into Amazon. They're not technically available for Prime yet, but they're in the receiving stage. So just something to keep in mind. You'll see in your Amazon Seller Central when there's actually available units. That's the keyword, that they are available to ship immediately. So next, like we were talking about before, the keyword targeting manual campaigns is incredibly important, and you should be willing to spend significantly for those in your first month to 2 months. And this is where your research comes into play. So when you were doing your product discovery, when you were looking at competition and looking at all the keywords that are the most relevant for your product, basically what you want to find is keywords that have the highest relevancy to your product, the keywords with high search volume, and the keywords with relatively low competition. I use Helium 10 to find this data most of the time. That's one of my favorite data providers, but it gives you really great insight into what's the monthly search volume for your product, how many different competing products are in there, and like I saw before that, going back to iPhone cases, the iPhone 11 case keyword has 90,000 different products on Amazon that fall into that category. So it just shows you how freaking competitive.
Small amount of competition, I'd rather go up against 90,000 people any day.
Yeah. Don't make it iPhone cases.
Exactly.
So, it's about doing your research, figuring out, those 3 factors for your keywords, which ones have the highest search volume, most relevancy, and lowest competition, are generally going to perform the best and have a slightly lower cost per click starting off. Another strategy that I found to work very well on Amazon is product and category targeting. And the reason I like this is, when you're looking at specific keywords, they can generally be pretty expensive. And we've seen the cost per click for specific keywords go up pretty significantly over the last 2 years. They've gone up about 50% on average. And that's a significant move that eats into your profits. Every click that you're getting and you're paying 50% more, that's going to take away from your profit margin. And this is where I've found product targeting to be very useful and successful. It's specifically for new products that don't have any reviews, don't have any sales history, things like that. You should be able to find products on Amazon that are obviously relevant or competitors, or just fit in with your brand and your product. You want to look for products that have a very high review count, so that they're going to get a lot of traffic. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on those pages because that's where your ads are going to show up on their product pages. And you're also going to see generally a much lower cost per click. So, depending on the keyword, especially exact keywords, which can get very expensive, depending on what it is, we see them $1, $2, $3, I've seen exact keywords all the way up to like $5, even $9 before. Like at that point, you kind of want to stay away because you're not going to get results there, and you obviously don't want to pay $9 per click. But for product targeting, you can generally get significant impressions and clicks with a cost per click of about 50 cents or less. It obviously, depends on the category, depends on the product you're marketing, or the product pages that you're marketing on. But it can be a much more affordable way to sort of break into Amazon advertising without having to spend, a significant amount for the broad phrase and exact keywords. And otherwise, I always recommend doing some type of influencer marketing. Whether you're selling on or off Amazon, it's always helpful. Amazon also sort of gives you credit for driving traffic to your listing from off Amazon sources. It's part of their algorithm. It's, it helps your overall visibility and exposure, and shows Amazon that you're investing in your products, and they're gonna respond to that. So influencer marketing is one strategy for that. So whether it's a famous YouTuber who does unboxing videos, or I always recommend trying to find influencers within your niche. That tends to be a lot more effective. But you should have people, posting videos, posting reviews, posting online content about your products, especially during the launch phase. I'd also advise to include a Google AdWords strategy as well. It's the same type of keywords that you're going after on Amazon. We generally don't see as high returns on Google as we do on Amazon for keyword related bids. But you can still have a positive ROI if you have a great keyword strategy. Learn from the keywords that are working on Amazon, and then funnel those into Google. And like I said, Amazon's going to reward you for bringing traffic from off Amazon onto your product page. So
I think the influencer marketing is a fantastic opportunity as well. When our first business with Pride Bites, we had about 750 influencers that paved the way for what we were doing. And another big thing that I always talk about with our head of partnerships is about kind of like the waterfall approach, whereas you want to coordinate with these influencers. So you have multiple influencers really posting and sharing and engaging on that all at one time, right? So kind of these clusters create this network effect and this virality that's really an amazing opportunity for you all, especially as a launch strategy. So I think that's a great opportunity there.
Exactly. It's a really good way to help the product go viral. Using a robust influencer strategy is a great way to do that. It can be expensive, but you can also get creative. I'll give you an example of my products. We basically give away products for free for anybody that is a scuba diving or snorkeling instructor, because we know they're going to use our products. They're giving tours every day. They generally don't require any compensation. They're just happy to use our products. And that's free marketing for, not free because we're giving away a product, but it's excellent marketing for us, and has performed really well. I mean, we have a couple of different partners that drive, significant revenue to our website every month just from using our products in front of their customers, which is, a great way to do it and to keep your costs down. Anyways, so what should you be thinking about in terms of budget and expected returns? Now, budget is very difficult because it really depends on, one, how much money do you have for your project? Hopefully you didn't spend it all on your inventory and your product development and that whole cycle. So that's something to think about in the beginning. You need to leave some cash, at the end for your launch strategy. And, hopefully within your first couple of months, have a positive ROI and you can reinvest into your business. But, you should expect that at least your first month or two, you're likely not gonna, you might barely break even on your advertising. We track ROAS, your return on ad spend. And I'd say if your ROAS is between 1 and 2, which means, for every dollar you put in, you're getting either $1 to $2 back in sales. I'd say that would be a pretty good result for your first month or so. We generally see that, your ACoS and your ROAS can be quite low your first 2 to 3 months. We also always track tacos, or your total ad cost of sale. So that it's the same idea. It just includes your organic sales in there too. It's your total ad sales divided by your total sales, and you should expect that number to be about 100%. You're going to be spending 100% of what you're making in sales, right off the bat. And again, that's not always the case, but this is generally what we see for new products launching on Amazon with no reviews. And you mentioned a little bit about review sort of discovery, looking into products to sort of figure out what other products are doing wrong that you could maybe improve on. But reviews is another thing to really focus on during your product launch. I know it takes time to get a couple of reviews, but it's amazing how reviews can either like completely kill or send a product to the moon. It's very frustrating when right off the bat maybe you get a couple 1-star reviews. You need to take those seriously and address them right away. But more importantly, what we find is, when you have 0 reviews, your conversion rate is going to be lower. Amazon customers are trained to read reviews before they make their purchasing decision. So we find that even once you get 5, 10, 15, just a handful of reviews, conversion rates for your advertisements go up significantly. We see a 50 to 100% increase in conversion rate just once you get that first batch of reviews in there. So it's something to try to accelerate if you can. You can get more reviews by having a more robust advertising strategy, or getting more sales in your first month. But that's going to be very helpful, and that's those reviews and those increases in your conversion rates is what's going to drive your expenses and your costs relating to advertising down over time. So yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on launch advertising. At Mayan, we work with people in every different stage, whether you're launching a product new to Amazon. We have customers that are $100 million sellers, and everything in between. So we have a lot of experience with all different types of categories, different types of products, and different types of businesses. And we've been able to provide consistently very strong results for all of our customers. On average, we see ROAS increase within the first month of us working with a new customer by about 25%, which can be quite significant. Anyways, you can scan this QR code here, and we offer free advertising audits and free launch planning as well. For anybody that's interested in talking to Mayan a little bit more about your advertising plan and strategy, we're happy to help out and do some free consulting.
All right. Thank you, Andrew and Stephen. Appreciate it. So a couple of questions that have come in. The first one being, are we going to make this recording available? Yes, we will make it available. So you have everyone that's registered, you'll receive a follow-up email with a copy of the recording. I'll also host this on our website at any time. So feel free to download it there. Also had another question come in regarding the research that was shared. So about the tool that populated the market share per niche within a category. Stephen, if you want to, maybe, I know you guys went into that a little bit, but a little bit more. And if anyone has any other Q&A or questions, we have a few minutes, so feel free to put those in the Q&A or chat.
Yeah, that tool is really awesome. It's a unique partner associated, a unique offering that Gemba actually provides, that we did a partnership with ZonGuru in order to provide that research. So if you're interested in some sort of in-depth research analysis, really cool stuff we can do with that. That's pretty in-depth, and it's completely unique to Gemba. So if you're looking for that, please reach out to us. We'd love to help you get that set up.
All right, great. And Andrew, a question from Elliot. What's your take on third-party businesses that offer to increase reviews?
Yeah, great question. Amazon, this is something Amazon's been cracking down on, over the last couple of years. And we've seen many sort of these review shops get shut down, and sometimes, even get in trouble, to say the least. So most of them are operating against Amazon's terms of service, which is where you need to be very careful. I personally recommend staying away from all of them. because it's very rare for there to be a service which is actually operating in, under Amazon's guidelines. There are services that allow you to email customers asking for reviews. You can, there's through the Amazon Seller Central platform, you're also able to request reviews from customers. So I do recommend doing that. There's also something called Vine Voices, which lets you get up to 5 reviews from, top Amazon reviewers. They're not always guaranteed to be 5-star, obviously, but that's sort of the only programs that are, sort of white hat and accepted by Amazon at this time.
All right, Stephen, we have a question on sourcing. So is Alibaba the best place to source products or going direct to the manufacturer?
Oh man. So yeah, maybe my hot dog, I'm gonna get on the soapbox right now. I got my start in this world, in the sourcing world. My first business we got onto Shark Tank and expanded really quickly. And in that process, I went overseas about 60 times over an 8-year period. And I even had to learn Chinese to manage my teams there. And so really got involved in the entire sourcing process. And majority of the business that I got at that time was through people that had gone to Alibaba and really didn't have a good experience. And thus, that's really why we created Gemba, is to have this vetted network that we could go to and a trusted source on the ground that you could manage it in a more effective way. So is Alibaba the best place to source products? I'd say it's a place to source products. I'd say there's a lot of challenges that you need to navigate and making sure that you're actually talking to a factory, right? Not just a trading company. The best thing I would say is it's not whether you want to go and use a platform to help you find a factory or go direct. I would say it's about how you're negotiating or managing that. So do you get to own your molds? Are you getting costs directly from the manufacturer? Or like I said previously, are you actually talking to a trading company who's building that nice buffer there? And what kind of transparency do you have in that process to source products? Are they adding any additional fees to that? Or is there any hidden fees that you don't know of? A lot of times, I think what you find in the sourcing industry is that people come forward and they give you a cost really quickly, but that cost changes then over time into something that you don't realize what it is. And we try our best here through our process at Gemba to navigate those waters effectively, so that you have the best possible outcomes. But I would say is if I had to choose, between two, either Alibaba or going direct, I would tell you to go direct. But in addition is find a trusted partner that can really help you navigate these waters, because there are so many ups and downs to that journey. And here at Gemba, we're always here to help you navigate that.
Yeah, I think the original idea.
All right, and I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just say the original idea behind Alibaba was sort of to connect, factories or manufacturers to the end user. But what's happened is we've just seen it become completely filled up with trading companies, like you were saying. So most of the listings you're seeing on Alibaba are not actually the direct manufacturer. I think you always, when you can, you always want to go direct to the manufacturer. Trading companies, all they do is take a little bit of a margin away from you. So yeah,
it's kind of like what reviews, like you were talking about, right? Which is like, being very careful about who you're using to develop reviews and this sort of thing. And it's very similar now in the sourcing space as well.
All right, I think we have one final question, Andrew. What is your opinion on Amazon Launchpad? Is it a worthwhile service?
To be honest, I haven't personally had too much experience with the Amazon Launchpad. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't provide too much color there. Yeah, maybe if you send me an email, I can get back to you with a little bit more information when I talk to my team about it. But personally, I have not used Launchpad.
All right, great. So that will wrap up our webinar for today. Like I said, it will be posted online for everyone that's here. Thank you so much, Andrew and Stephen, for the presentation today. Thanks everyone that's on the line.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, Andrew. It's really fun. Thank you so much. Go see our friends at Mayan, a great partner of ours. Look forward to everything in the future.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Stephen. Have a good day, everyone.
My pleasure. Yeah. Take care, everyone.